Hey guys, what's up? It's iPhone here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the best weapon in Warframe in 2024. For those of you who have played Warframe like a long time ago and came back, the answer is actually going to be really surprising. So what I want you guys to do is come to your ship, go to navigation, and then go to your clan's dojo. Go ahead, pause the game, press fast travel, and you're going to the biolab, and you want to type in Torrid, and you want to pick up the Torrid research. Press replicate blueprint. Go ahead and press replicate for 15,000 credits, and you can see we need an additional 40,000 credits, 2 mutagen mass, 4,500 salvage, 600 circuits, and a fully built format to craft this thing. You also have to be mastery rank 4 to get it as well. You want to come back into your ship, go down to the foundry, which is right here. You want to type in Torrid, and then you want to go ahead and craft it. Now, if you played Warframe a long time ago, like I said, this is so surprising because this gun literally used to be mastery rank fodder. It was useless. It was bad. You did not want to have this weapon in your inventory because it just took up a weapon slot. But now, it's literally the best weapon in the game. And you might be asking, how? It's because we have this cool new thing in Warframe called Incarnate weapons. And what Incarnate weapons do, or Incarnate adapters in this case, is they literally take some of the worst weapons in the game and they make them really good. Or at least weapons that sort of fell off in, like, you know, meta and stuff like that. Anyway, the Torrid Incarnate is crazy because it literally transforms the gun from being a grenade launcher, which shoots out like little toxin balls, which deal next to no damage, to this big laser beam, which literally kills everything. It's wild. So, Evolution 1, Incarnate form. Direct hits charge Incarnate transmutation, alt fire transmutes. Switching back will expend any remaining charge. Fire a long-range toxin beam. So it turns it into a beam weapon with built-in toxin damage. Then Evolution 2, Final Fusillade. Increased damage by 51, plus free multi-shot on last shot in magazine. So more damage, and then more damage on the last shot in the magazine. You also have another upgrade called Plentiful Mayhem. Now this one isn't so good for the simple fact that it just shreds through all of your ammo. So you get a damage increase of plus 31, but then multi-shot consumes ammo directly from capacity and increases damage by 60%. It sounds good, but you run out of ammo way too quickly for it to be worth it. Then next up we have Evo Free. So I like to have extra projectile speed, but honestly you could probably run anything here. But if you reload from empty, lingering damage field duration doubles on your first shot, or then you have increased magazine capacity by +9. So for me, it would be between Extended Volley and Swift Deliverance. Swift Deliverance is nice because the little grenade that you shoot out that you need to use to build Incarnate form is going to travel a lot faster. Therefore, you're going to get into your Incarnate form a lot quicker. And then finally, we have Commodore's Fortune, so increased critical chance by plus 20%. We've got Survivor's Edge, which increases your critical chance by 15% and your status chance by 15%. And Elemental Balance, increased status chance by 34%. So honestly, you can go for any of these, but I really recommend just Commodore's Fortune. It just is sort of the best. Now, whenever I tell you that this gun can literally do any content in the game, I mean it. It can. What we're going to do is we're going to jump into the simulacrum and I'm going to show you guys how nuts this gun actually is. Alright, so I have not one, but 4 different builds to show you guys. So first up, we've got my viral slash build. Now this is just your standard sort of go-to build, which you can basically run on any primary weapon that has a good balance between crit and status. So let's talk about the mandatory mods first of all. So Galvanized Chamber, this is your mandatory multi-shot mod. Critical Delay is your mandatory critical chance mod. Vital Sense is your mandatory critical damage mod. Hunter Munitions is pretty mandatory because this is going to give you bonus slash procs, which is going to bypass armor. Keep in mind that this weapon has no slash damage built into it. The Prime Cryo mods is on here, and this is your singular cold mod. Now you could go ahead and replace this for Rhyme rounds if you don't have Prime Cryo rounds, or you could just run regular cryo rounds. And because the Torrid's base damage is toxin, it's going to combine with the toxin damage to make viral with just one mod. Val Acceleration is your mandatory fire rate mod, but you can replace this with other fire rate mods if you want as well. Which leaves 2 slots which are flexible. So in here I've got bladed rounds. Bladed rounds is giving us bonus critical damage. Now if you don't have primary merciless, you want to run serration in this slot. And this is just if you want the most damage possible that you're running primary merciless plus bladed rounds. What you could do is you could go ahead and run prime firestorm on here, because this is a chaining beam weapon. It's actually going to make it so that the beam chains to more enemies, so it's going to be really good at just killing massive groups. And then in our final slot we have a primed beam mod. Now if you don't have a prime beam mod, you could throw something else in here. What you throw on in this slot comes down to what you have and what type of Warframe build you're running. So for example, I'm using Rhino with his roar ability, so it's not really worth it for me to run a prime beam mod here. So what I could do is I could go ahead and I could run galvanized scope in place of the prime beam mod for more crit chance. That's simply because prime beam mods and Rhino's roar more or less do the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys this build without any buffs active. So we're going to go ahead and spawn in 20 corrupted heavy gunners at level 215 with the steel path modifier turned on. And what you want to do is you want to go ahead and shoot the balls at the enemy. Then you turn on the incarnate form with your middle mouse button and you just hold left click, and as you can see, the enemies literally just die. It's a crazy weapon. So let's say you don't have primary merciless and you need to run serration in this slot here. Let's go ahead and take off primary merciless, and we're going to go ahead and throw on serration. I need to take off my prime beam mod. That's okay, I'm going to do that anyway. So I throw on my serration, and then I've got this last slot here. I'm actually just going to go ahead and make like a beginner build. So a beginner build would look more like you'd have rhyme rounds on to make the viral. And then we've got that flex slot here. We're going to assume that you don't have a prime beam mod. So you could run something like hammer shot in this slot. So this is a much easier to achieve build. Let's also assume that you don't want to run val acceleration because you see the minus damage and you're like, eh. We just go ahead, put critical delay in that slot, and we go ahead and we throw on a fire rate mod. So I'm just going to go ahead and run speed trigger. So no arcane, serration, galvanized chamber for multi-shot, vital sense for crit damage, rhyme rounds for viral, hammer shot for more crit damage, speed trigger for fire rate, 100 munitions for the slash, and critical delay for the crit chance. Now obviously we're not going to kill as quickly, but we go ahead and we do the same thing. We do the balls, we go ahead, we activate the incarnate form, and we hold down left click, and as you can see, the enemies are still dying very quick. The time to kill is a little bit slower, but the enemies still die incredibly quickly. So I'm just going to go ahead and redo my build again. So let's say you are running Rhino's Roar, so let's just do a little demonstration. We've went ahead and we took off that prime beam mod that I had on, and I'm running galvanized scope for more crit chance in its place. We spawn in the enemies, we go ahead, we cast roar, we aim for the head, we activate our incarnate form, we aim down sights, and as you can see, look at all the red crits, man. It's crazy, right? All the enemies died in literally no time. So basically, this is an infinite red crit beam weapon that widespread slash procs and viral procs and deals a ton of damage over time. It literally does everything. It's got infinite ammo because your incarnate form doesn't really consume ammo because it's its own thing. So the only ammo that you're actually spending is the balls that you shoot. And you can make builds for literally every single faction in the game. So this is a build which is basically for your corrupted or your Grineer enemies, for like high level content. Now we also have a build which is for the murmur enemies. So that looks like this. You're running corrosive and radiation. So I'm going to do a little demonstration versus the murmur enemies without using roar. First of all, we're going to go ahead and spawn in the murmur battle group. These guys also level 215. Just go ahead and build up your incarnate form, turn it on, hold down left click, and you're seeing everything die. The hollowed veins are the more tanky enemies, but even they die super quick. And another cool thing that the keen-eyed of you might have noticed is that some of the enemies' armor actually got fully stripped away there. And that's because I'm running 2 Emerald Archon shards on my Rhino. Now if I go ahead and I swap to a frame that doesn't have those shards on, the damage is going to look a little bit more like so, but they're still going to die extremely fast, as you can see. Hollowed vein again being the tankiest, but still died super quickly. But yeah, this weapon literally does it all. Let's go ahead and replace the Bane of the Murmur for one of the galvanized mods again. It was galvanized scope that we're going to go ahead and be running, and that means we have to use Rhino's Roar buff again. We go ahead, we cast Roar, we left click to build up incarnate form, hold down left click, and wow. So this is the build that you'll be using in the likes of your Elite Deep Archimedia. Next up, we have a Toxin build, which we're going to be using versus Corpus enemies. Let's go ahead and spawn in a Corpus battle group. Not that the Corpus enemies are scary at all. Let's go ahead and turn on our incarnate form. Oh, wait. The bad guys are basically already dead. Porpoise build kind of goes without saying. And then let's say you're lazy and you just want to run corrosive damage for whatever reason. You can put together a build that looks like this, running a Prime Beam mod for the faction that you're going against. Or you can go ahead and you can change this up a little bit, so you can take off Stormbringer, put High Voltage on over the Prime Beam mod, move Hammershot to its own slot, then go ahead and throw on Galvanized Aptitude. Now this isn't going to be the most insane Galvanized Aptitude build, but it's still going to be pretty good. This would be the type of build that you would run if you were too lazy to swap stuff out and you only want to run corrosive and you just want to see those big numbers. Using Rhino's Roar here is going to be very beneficial because you don't have that Prime Beam mod on, but we're going to do the testing without Rhino's Roar to begin with first, and as you can see, we do just shred through all the enemies. Now keep in mind, I do have those green shards on, and that's why they're getting fully stripped. If we go ahead and run it without the green shards, it's going to look a little bit more like this. So we just go ahead and Incarnate form. There you go. As you can see, still respectable damage. We still kill them very quick, and there's many red numbers on the screen. But if we were to incorporate Rhino's Roar, well, it's going to look 10 times better because, well, it's Rhino's Roar, and we're also stripping away their armor. So crazy amounts of damage. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this exact build into an Elite Deep Arc and Meteor run, and I'm just going to run around. I'm going to kill the enemies in there just so you guys can see how good this weapon actually is at killing like level 400 and up enemies. I'm going to run around it first without Rhino's Roar on, but then I am going to activate it and you're going to see how much damage you actually deal. And the reason that I'm so eager to use Rhino's Roar and show it off is because I believe you should be throwing that on a lot of your frames anyway, especially if you're taking them into Elite Deep Arc and Media. So let's just go ahead and do a little run and see how much damage we can deal. So just to show you guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump into a level 375 to 400 mission. So this is perfect because this is a disruption mission. So I'm going to get to show you guys how it performs versus the Demolishers. I'm going to go ahead and cast myself some Iron Skin first so I don't end up dying. And now we're just going to go ahead, build up our Incarnate form like so, activate it. Now we just hold down left click and you can see all the bad guys, they just literally die. Now keep in mind, I do have those Emerald Shards on. And that means that the enemy's armor is going to get stripped whenever I deal enough corrosive procs. So that is factoring in on my damage, but honestly, like, I recommend running those on the likes of Rhino anyway. And Rhino is probably going to be most people's go-to frame for this type of content. Turn on my Iron Skin again. Now I'm going to activate Roar. And I'm going to go ahead and put the key into the tower. We're going to go to the Demolist enemies. Now these guys have reduced HP because 2 of them spawn in, but they're still pretty strong. So here's a Void Rig. And as you can see, we just make sure to aim at his weak points. And we deal a ton of damage to him. And these are some of the tankiest enemies in the game, guys. Build up the Incarnate form. Hit this guy's arm. Aim for his head like so. And he's dead. So this weapon just absolutely shreds. You have to go out of your way to get this because it's going to carry you through so much content in the game. And yeah, you can make the argument that I've got some good mods, but I tried my best to show builds that are more beginner friendly. And hopefully I explained the builds well enough that you guys understand, like, you know, how you can get similar results. The enemies here are weak to radiation damage and they have armor, so using corrosive plus radiation damage because of the mod that just gives us straight up radiation, we deal a lot of damage. And the Emerald Shards that I have on, they're not necessary, but they do help out a lot, and I have a feeling that they're only going to become more meta as time goes on, as VE have been talking about changing up how damage works. So essentially, instead of different damage types, just dealing more damage versus, like, you know, armored enemies and stuff like that, or enemies that are only wearing armor, it's going to be more, like, faction specific. So an entire faction will take more damage from the likes of radiation, for example. Cast Roar one more time. We just aim at these guys. They just deal so much damage. It's not even funny. And we don't even have to worry about ammo or anything, because, like, 2 shots of the regular Torrid gives us our beam mode back, and that doesn't take any ammo. So yeah, it's a pretty crazy weapon. And that's pretty much it. Torrid Incarnate, super busted. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, as it helps the channel a lot. If you want to get early access to my videos, you can become a channel member by pressing the join button beneath this video for $5 a month. Or if you want early access to other cool resources and behind the scenes content, you can subscribe to my Patreon for less than $5 a month. Consider clicking on the video on screen, and I'll see you guys in the next one.